And so we want to let you know when to expect the rapture so that you can be prepared and to walk the walk at the most critical time that you need to.
The events to come, we have the church age, and then the period of tribulation, the 1,000-year age, time of judgment, and then the eternal age. Now, the period of tribulation is 7 years long. The first half of it, 3.5 years or 42 months, has no signs to it.
That we know of. Yeah, the Bible does not tell us of anything specific, but
we know that something might be happening different than what it was prior to.
Yeah.
And then the last 3.5 years are called the Great Tribulation. And that's when we start having the signs appear. And it starts with the first seal that is unsealed. And so we have the 7 seals. And then we have the 7th seal has 7 trumpets in it. Then the angels blow the 7 trumpets. And then during the process of the 7th trumpet, we would have the rapture occur. And then the 7 vials of wrath are poured out to the people that are left behind.
Yeah, so all the Christians who are going to go to heaven of all time are not a part of that wrathful time. We see that, and I was led to this pre-wrath viewpoint. It happens to be the most popular view. The second most popular is being raptured before tribulation even happens, but that's been debunked by many different scholars. Basically, they say that nothing will happen before tribulation, and there are different things that actually do happen. And they'll think that wrath is part of the early seals during the first half of tribulation. But the wrath of God that we are not going to be subject to happen after the church is raptured. So we are not going to see the wrath of God. The wrath of God does not start at the beginning of tribulation. With that, it's important to know that we need to look for the mark of the beast. So for the Christians out there, our brothers and sisters who want to go to heaven, who love God and believe that they're going to be raptured before tribulation, they wouldn't look for anything to be the mark of the beast. So if there was something bad that came about, they would think, it's okay to do this thing because it's not the mark of the beast, because we get taken out before the mark of the beast even happens. So we don't need to watch for anything either because we're taken out even before tribulation begins. We just live our lives, go to church, say our prayers, and we're going to be saved. We're going to be raptured any day now, right? So it's a different approach that, again, scriptures will easily show that it cannot be biblical.
Seal 1 starts with the Antichrist. So basically, when the Antichrist arrives, that's when the 2 witnesses will start their
right
witnessing,
around that time,
because it's also going to be 3.5 years of witnessing.
Yeah, just short of it. I think when you calculate it out, it's like 1,277 days or something like that. But then how do you look at 42 months? Is it a calendar month, or do you say, the average year is 365.25 days with the leap years? And, of course, Great Tribulation covers basically a 4-year period. So is there a leap year in there? And so then out of the 365.25 days, is that divided by 12? And it's like a 30.438 number, something like that. Is that a month? And it's going to be 42 of these 30 some odd decimal numbers to get your day count. So that's part of the mystique in why we don't know the day or the hour. But in the timeline, you have a very good sense that it's roughly about 3.5 years later that Jesus will come once the Antichrist comes on the scene. And so we have to really be watching ultimately for that. So we should have some indications, and then we'll see this person that's going to try to say that I'm going to bring peace, but he's carrying a sword, and so he really means death. So
the first 4 seals represent 4 horsemen, and every horseman brings something different. So the first one, the Antichrist, arrives. As the second horseman arrives, there will be terrible war and lots of bloodshed. With the third horseman, there would be a famine, abuse of power, and the mark of the beast. And then the fourth horseman arrives, 25% of the Earth's population dies. So if this was to happen in this day and age, that would be about 2 billion people that would be affected.
Yeah.
And then we have Seal 5. Some Christians die as martyrs, while other Christians continue to live up until the rapture occurs.
So those Seal 5 Christian martyrs, those are Book of Remembrance saints. And they are Book of Remembrance saints because the elders said, one said to another, who are all of those dressed in white robes? And they said, don't you know, those are the tribulation saints. They needed to wash their robe white in the blood of the Lamb. That is water baptism. And so they died without baptism. But before they went to heaven, they needed to do water baptism in the spirit realm. There's only one way around that. So the scriptures in the canon are supporting the views that God has given in all of these dreams. So the teachings are validified because it is supported in the canon as well. It's the same truth. It's just the clear version of what's in the canon. That's known now. And so we know that these Seal 5 martyrs are Book of Remembrance saints. They were not wholly sanctified, and specifically because they needed water baptism. Most people, most churches do not say that water baptism is a part of your salvation. And look at what we see. All the people who didn't get water baptized have to do it in the spirit realm. The people who did not die that are Christian, those then are the holy sanctified. Those are the Book of Life people. They're ready to go. They're purified in a holy state of favorability with the Father, and they're ready to be raptured.
So there would be no more partially sanctified people.
Not any partially left, no. So now they're in the spirit realm, finishing their walk. They're continuing to walk with the Lord, toward the Lord, and they're completing their sanctification path. So they're waiting for the second rain event to happen, the great rain. So remember Hosea, he was the prophet who talked about the former and the latter rain. The former rain happened after the atonement of Christ during those 3 days. The rain is a code word, and it's synonymous with blessings of God. And so there's different levels of everything. So there's levels of rain. And so this is of a level that is saving them with water baptism and with anything that they need to do to complete their sanctification. Well, this happens as the latter rain. And so that's also known as the great rain, which happens during great tribulation. It is another time period to where people have a chance to accept the gospel message, because those who hear the gospel message are to accept it and obey it, is what our canon tells us. And so even people who hear it, like when Jesus went down into Hades, into Abraham's bosom, he's preaching the word. Our own canon is telling us in a roundabout way that these people had choice even then. That is the truth. So the choices never stop because our spirit never stops. We're of the breath of God, whether we're a child of God or not. So if it's like Seal 4, now's the time to really start understanding the walk and walking the walk more than ever. Because if you're not wholly sanctified during Seal 5, you will die. You need to be one that knows this walk and the importance of the walk, even if you need to be scared into it. It's good to fear God if it brings you to God. So fear, we can fear evil or we can fear God, and it is good to fear God. David needed it. He knew that he couldn't stop sinning, and so he prayed for God to scare him to that. And so that's exactly what he did. He gave him knowledge of the spirit realm, and that scared the boots off of him. So it's something that's very important that some people need just to become partially sanctified. They need the fear of the Lord. And that is exactly what our word tells us. So that's what's happening at Seal 5.
And then at Seal 6, there's a great earthquake, and then the full moon turns blood red. Features of the earth and outer sky disappear. And then Seal 7, heaven is silenced. We have 7 trumpets that are sounded by heavenly angels that are standing before God. So then we have all these 7 trumpets, and with every single trumpet, there's something happening.
Yeah.
With trumpet 1, hail and a mixture of fire and blood rain down and burn all the green grass, a third of the trees. Trumpet 2, large fiery mountain is thrown into the sea, and it turns 1/3 of it into blood. So basically then a third of the ships are destroyed, a third of the sea life dies.
Yeah.
And then trumpet 3, a great star, hits the waters on this planet, affecting a third of the rivers and springs, making them bitter. And then trumpet 4, the sun is struck, causing 1/3 of the moon and stars to be darkened. So that would darken a third of the day and a third of the night.
Yeah.
And then we have trumpet 5, and trumpet 5 actually says for 5 months, battle locusts attack those who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads.
Joel 2, after the locusts come, that's when the Holy Spirit pours his spirit upon everybody, and then everybody is prophesying and so forth.
Oh, wow.
The sons, the daughters, the old, the young. So what is prophecy again? It's things that are going to happen, right? It's given from God. It's to teach us because we have choice to follow them or not. So we have to understand that prophecy can still happen in the end. So for the people who don't think that prophecy can happen today, they would really not be able to deal with those verses that say that all of these people are going to be poured out with the Holy Spirit and they're going to prophesy in the end. So that means that which is perfect has not come yet. So that which is perfect is not the New Testament. It's not the Bible. It's not Jesus Christ. It's not the atonement. It is truly the tabernacle to come, that third heaven that we're going to reside in forever. That is what's perfect. And so even today, there can be prophecy that is really coming. We as Christians need to accept that, to hear this message, to hear the testimonies that we're sharing and the teachings that we're sharing that God has revealed today.
So trumpet 5 is also associated with woe 1, and then
first
trumpet
woe.
6 is woe 2. What are these woes about?
They're just bigger events of doom.
Because it's only going to get worse from here.
Yes.